gentlemen, I'm your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 336 once again for episode 188 of the 815 Exchange. And well, what a week. All right, what a week. I mean, goodness. We got combat sports. We got to talk about what AJ did to Francis. We got UFC 299. We got Champions League, end of second legs for, I guess, the first half of the games and everything that happened there. We got the Women's Gold Cup. And, of course, it was Women's Conference Championship week in college basketball, which had its own bunches of storylines. So, yeah, we got plenty to talk about. All right, we got plenty to talk about. Max 1, we'll talk about that in Roundup again. So, as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And as always, everything you're looking for can be found in the description. Everything you're looking for in this life. Timestamps, which are embedded in the video as well, and social media links. Just anything you're looking for can be found in the description. But yes, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I said we're kicking it off with the fight game, so let's get to it. And boy, Francis Ngannou, some people said he might be the best heavyweight in the world after what he did to Tyson Fury. Surprised a lot of people. Surprised me. Thought maybe he can be a heavyweight contender. Maybe he's translated that fast. But we learned very, very quickly on Friday in Saudi Arabia. Learned very quickly that there are simply levels to this. Levels. Anthony Joshua was not playing around. AJ with a second round knockout after 3 knockdowns, including the last brutal knockout of Francis Ngannou, cements AJ's place as the number 1 contender in heavyweight boxing, and probably, I don't really see an argument for anybody else getting that next shot at what will be the undisputed title after Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk fight for it, I think this month actually. So yeah, it was just, AJ just brutalized him, okay? Francis came in with, honestly, I saw it compared to this, and I think that was very fair. It felt very similar to the first Stipe fight from Francis, right? He didn't come out the same way he did against Tyson, and of course, different opponents, you got to come out different, but he came out trying to almost, like he was just going to bulldoze through AJ a little bit, and that just never was going to happen, especially when not AJ's power, and he paid for it. He paid for it, and boy, did he pay for it. Got folded up like Stipe in that second fight versus Francis. Knee bent back and everything, all right? He was out for like a good 2 minutes. It was a brutal knockout. One of the knockouts of the year from AJ. Francis never established his jab, and AJ was just on a different level. Simply put, that is the best way I can summarize this. He was on a different level. It looked like a boxer versus an MMA fighter in a boxing match. That is what when you think of it in your head, that is what it would look like, and that is what we got on Friday. AJ with a statement. Francis, of course, got the biggest payday of his life, but still, I don't know if he should stay in boxing. I know AJ said that. I know Francis said that. I just don't, we'll see. Maybe take on like a lower level contender in that heavyweight division, and we'll see. But, after a KO like that, I'm not sure, how much more mileage at 37 years old Francis has left in the tank. Of course, he's got that deal with PFL, so we'll see. All right, we'll see. But AJ makes a statement with one of the knockouts of the year. Now, UFC 299 was in Miami. Of course, it was headlined by the Suga Show coming to town as he got his rematch for his lone loss in his career versus Chito Vera. Of course, that was marred, by the fact that Sean, busted a nerve in his ankle and was pretty much unable to move in that fight and then got finished. That was that. He doesn't consider it a loss. And honestly, after what happened on Saturday night, I'm right there with I'm with Suga Sean, all right? Because I'm going to be honest, Sean was somewhat winning that fight versus Chito before it happened, and this was clinical. All right, this was clinical. It wasn't an execution, but it was a brutalization. It was like watching the Moutinho fight. When Suga Sean fought Chris Moutinho, and we were just like, man, Moutinho's just a zombie. I don't know how he's taking this much punishment. That is exactly what happened to Chito Vera in this fight. He got skunked, swept, however you want to call it. 5 rounds to nothing. Just pure domination. Pure domination. Suga Sean beat the brakes off this man for 20, what? is 25, 5-minute rounds, 25 minutes. Beat him up for 25 minutes. Oh, I mean, just hit over and over. And it got worse. The 5th round, which Chito finally started to maybe, I don't know, he downloaded the information he needed and he started, at in the last seconds of the fight, finally started, landing. He still outstruck him. In fact, had the most significant strikes of any round in that last round. Dominant. Rearranged Chito's face and avenged the loss, the only blemish that was on his record. If you didn't know the Suga Show was for real, you better believe it after that. Of course, he wants Ilya in Spain. I think he's got to, run it with Merab first before we start talking double champ. But, Suga Show, he's box office for a reason. And he's proved, hey, he's got the charisma. He's got the aura, whatever you want to call it. He's got the hype around him. But the hype is just not a hype job. He is the real deal. The Suga Show shuts down Chito in Miami. The co-main event. Basically, Dustin Poirier settled into this role almost as like a championship gatekeeper. The elite gatekeeper, right, at lightweight. If you want to be elite, you got to prove you can beat DP, and then maybe you can get to Islam. That's the hierarchy here. And Benoit Saint Denis rolled into Miami thinking that maybe, just maybe, it was his time. He was talking a big game, not showing a lot of respect to DP in the lead up to this fight. And, DP made him pay. He went for the guillotine way too many times. I do not know. I don't know if it's because he knows he's never finished anybody with the guillotine, by the way. I don't know why Dustin loves to go for the guillotine. Like, especially recently. He loves that guillotine. He wants to guillotine somebody so badly. And he kept going for it, but eventually he went back to the thing that made him famous, and that is knocking people out as he knocks out BSD in the 2nd round to get the win. Prove that the Diamond still has it. He's not ready to knock off of that high horse. Of course, the problem, he can't beat Islam, and I don't know if he can beat Charlie Olive. So he's kind of stuck in this like championship gatekeeper role. But for now, the Diamond adds to his legacy and adds to his, the people, think about the people that he's finished, right? Just adds that ever-growing list. And knocks out BSD. BSD, said he was a little sick coming into the fight. So, we'll see. And, one loss is not the end of the world in the fight game. So, once again, like I said, we'll see. All right, we'll see if he can get back, get revenge eventually down the line. But for now, the Diamond is still on top. MVP, Michael Venom Page, makes his debut in the octagon for the UFC. Against Kevin Holland. All right, it was Big Mouth versus Bigger Mouth, and MVP was the bigger mouth. A great performance. All right, a really, really good performance. Honestly, shout out to Izzy on that freestyle bender, which is one of my favorite MMA commentary, if not my favorite MMA commentary YouTube channel. So shout out to Style Bender. But I think he kind of summed it up well. MVP's skills just translated really well to this big stage. I think Holland was the right opponent, and he made a really good impression. All right, he was just better. It was a competitive fight, but MVP was just a little bit better than Holland. And that's what it was, all right? Nothing really, too crazy to note about this, but the taunting, what you would expect from an MVP Holland fight is what you got, and MVP proved to be the better man. He gets the unanimous decision and gets his debut win. Oh, boy. Jack Della Madonna, JDM, had Gilbert Burns, and we said last week in my preview for UFC 299, this was a big, big matchup for him. Very similar to the BSD and DP matchup, right? Burns is like the guy you beat before you become one of the elites in that welterweight division, right? Could JDM make the jump up, beat a proven contender, and prove that, hey, I need to be, in championship title shot, conversations? And he did simply just that. And not only that, he becomes one of the very few people to KO Gilbert Burns, and that is what he does in this fight, and I believe round 3 as well. Burns had some success, but JDM just held to it, got that reversal at the end, landed the right strike, and Burns was, he was down, all right, and then that was it. Burns, the striking's always been kind of the thing that's kind of held him back. Of course, he's a great grappler, highest of orders in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the striking has never been at the elite level. And that's always been the thing that's kind of held him back from the elites, the champions in welterweight, is that striking. And it just kind of came back to haunt him here. JDM proved that he's got what it takes. Huge win. We'll see what happens. But yeah, JDM gets a very rare finish you will see against Gilbert Burns. Peter Yan and Song Yadong is probably going to be, I'm not going to say it's fight of the year, but I think it certainly will be one of the best 3-rounders I think we'll see all year, which I could have told you before this fight. Yadong's still so young, by the way. But Yan gets back on track here with a fantastic performance. Like I said, it was a really, really good fight, really good tempo, very, very skillful, very high level. And yeah, Yan, he needed this. All right, simply put, I said it in the preview last week. He needed to win this fight. He gets back on track against a very game Song Yadong. Not the end of the world for, like I said, for Yadong. Very, very young. Still developing. And, you know, it's good for him to get in there with a guy that's a former champion like Peter Yan. And even in a loss, still looks very good. But yeah, Yan needed the win. Congratulations to the boy. And to kind of wrap up the rest of this UFC 299 and this Combat Sports segment, Curtis Blades. Listen, Jalton Almeida, great grappler. I kind of get sick, even though I'm not like a casual and I'm okay with some grappling contests and, you know, these fights. I do get tired of him just constantly taking the back and then just kind of smothering people. So I was not at all upset when he somehow slipped off of Curtis Blades and Blades proceeded to knock him out with a bunch of hammer fists. I was fine with it. All right? I was cool. I don't know about you, but I think he might have saved us from a boring fight. So yeah, shout out to Curtis Blades. He gets a huge knockout against Jalton and halts his momentum, kills that hype train. Michael Pierre had a nice sub on the undercard as well. Kyler and Macy Barber also had some nice wins, some nice momentum building wins on this card as well. It was a very solid card, like I said, very stacked card, honestly, at UFC 299. I think it delivered, and like I said, the Sugar Show keeps on going. Chito, welcome to the island of irrelevancy. Not the island of relevancy, to quote our tribal chief, but the island of irrelevancy. All right, welcome to the descent. All right, welcome to the descent. Now, that brings us to Champions League. I'm going to let college basketball get the main event because boy, oh boy, do we have stuff to talk about there. But I'm going to let Champions League and really the soccer segment, it's really going to be soccer this week, take precedent here next. Bayern Munich. All right, they have been up and down. Listen, Bundesliga is one thing, even though Kane had a hat trick, by the way. I think he's leading the Golden Boot. And boy, did he have a great week, which we're about to talk about. And while Bayern struggled in the Bundesliga and that long Bundesliga winning streak looks like it might be in jeopardy this year, Thomas Tuchel is still that dude in Champions League ball. I don't know what it is. I don't know why he just elevates his managing style and his teams in the Champions League, but he does it like nobody else right now because Bayern is just always game. They were down 1-0. 1-0 on aggregate going into this at home in the Allianz. And they smoked Lazio. I mean, smoked them. I mean, it didn't feel like they were down at any point. Even when they were down on aggregate, I mean, they were in control of this game from the jump and just put it on them. 3-0, they get the win in the second leg to advance past the round of 16 and into the quarterfinals for this year's Champions League. Kane had the brace. Matthijs de Ligt had a fantastic strike that we thought was a wonder goal, but actually it turns out that Thomas Muller did Thomas Muller things and he got the goal. So MDL gets a nice little assist. But yeah, that was pretty. Very, very pretty. Honestly, might have been goal if it had been an MDL strike of the week in Champions League if it wasn't for what Kylian Mbappe did. But Muller did his thing, and then on the weekend they just destroy Mainz. I think like 8-1. Kane gets a hat trick. I think he's at 30 bags for the year. So yeah, just a great season, a great form run right now for Bayern, getting back on track. Tuchel seems to have rallied them since it was decided that he ain't coming back. So he's just going out with a bang. But yeah, Bayern dominates Lazio. They move on to the next round. Like I said, Mbappe dominated it. Simply put, they were already up. They were up 2-0 on aggregate going into this game, and then they said, Real Sociedad, don't even worry about it. You ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing. They did get a goal, by the way, at the end of this game to ruin Donnarumma's beautiful clean sheet. And really that was PSG's fault because I think they got a little lackadaisical on defense. But, hey, Kylian Mbappe dominated. He had a brace in this game. Just dominated. All right. He can score in space, and like that first goal, which was really goal of the week, he can just cut through you like butter and then just deliver a ridiculous strike. He's the best player in the world. I've been saying it for now almost, 3 years? I've been calling Mbappe the best player in the world. I'm glad the rest of the world is now starting to see it and understand it and believe it, because simply put, the boy is the best in the world. The Prince of Paris reigns supreme as PSG gets it done and advances into the quarters. Man City. Of course, them beating Copenhagen wasn't really a surprise. They won 3-1. Akanjine and Julian Alvarez scored, twice within the first 10 minutes, and that was pretty much the end of the game. Haaland also got back on the board in the Champions League. I think he's tied with Kane and Mbappe for the lead with 6. But that wasn't really, really anything for them to sweat. However, that game versus Arsenal on the weekend was massive. And unfortunately, they only went out of there with 1 point, which means that they are tied, and Arsenal now is 1 point ahead of everybody. But that was a huge tie. Huge tie versus Arsenal. Premier League is going down to the wire, it appears, unless somebody just greatly cools off. It's a 3-headed race between the 3-headed monsters, and right now Arsenal is on top. But Man City and Liverpool are only able to draw it out. McAllister getting that penalty at the end, or really I think in the 50th minute, to tie it up after Man City struck first, and they just kind of held from there. So we'll see what happens. But Man City overall, solid week. Haaland back on track. Foden had that great week last week. So Man City still very much so looks like the Death Star is still up and running. Real Madrid, all right, they only needed to they were up 1-0. All right, they only needed to preserve it, and they did just that. Leipzig wasted too many opportunities. Xavi Simons, by the way, played a great game. It's been crazy how he's developed. But they wasted too many opportunities. Simply put, wasted. So many opportunities for them to really take control of this game, to tie this thing up and make this really interesting. But they wasted too many chances. Vinny struck, and then it was, they were down by 2. Orban scores late, but like I said, they were out of time and out of chances, out of opportunities. So many opportunities wasted. It was ridiculous. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. Real Madrid didn't necessarily win this game, and they didn't win the second leg, by the way. It was a draw. But they survived. They survived because they were more clinical. So credit where credit's due. Of course, they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. A lot of suspensions currently in domestic play off of, weird carding decisions, especially that one that had Jude out last game. But hey, it is what it is. Madrid, the voodoo still continues. And to end us off before I, shut this segment done, USA takes out Brazil. It was not a pretty game, I'm not going to lie. Though that Emily Fox cross, I love Emily Fox. So Lindsey Horan was fantastic. Jaden Shaw wins Best Player for the Women's Gold Cup in the inaugural one, so shout out to her. She should be on the Olympic team, one of the best young players possibly in the world. Alyssa Nair wins the Golden Glove, which was also well deserved. She was that girl, and of course saved us in that semifinal. But yes, USA back on track. We'll see, but it's still a good sign to win a Gold Cup, win a international competition like that. So we'll take it. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, that brings us to entertainment. And let's see. Love is Blind, by the way. Let me talk briefly. All right. I also watch trash television. Don't judge me. I don't care. Love is Blind. Also, they were in Charlotte. I think I talked about that last week. I ain't surprised. I was surprised. Clay fumbled. All right, let's just put it simply as that. Clay fumbled. AD is literally the perfect woman, baddest on the show, and he fumbled. A colossal fumble. Even though I get what he was doing, and maybe even a little bit respect the decision, but you don't wait till the wedding day to do that and just walk out on the altar and then, do the whole, I still want to be with you, but I'm not ready for marriage. You don't do that at the altar, bro. You just don't. Amy and Johnny are the only ones working out. Was not surprising. But yeah, Clay fumbled. Jimmy would have been happier possibly with Jess, maybe. Of course, we didn't see that side of the relationship, of course, because he chose Chelsea. But that was just nothing but stress for the boy. So I'm glad that he stood up for himself finally and got out of that. They, of course, in 2 days, on Wednesday, is when the reunion comes out, so that's going to be chaos. But yeah, Love is Blind Season 6 was drama, as always. What else? Oscars. Oppenheimer won 7, all right? 7, which was really no surprise, all right? That movie was fantastic, even though a lot of the candidates this year were very good movies from what I heard and from some of the ones, of course, the other ones besides Oppenheimer that I watched. So, but no surprises. Get 7, killing RDJ, Nolan won. They won Best Picture. They won, I think, Best Cinematography as well. So yeah, just they cleaned up. All right, as expected at the Oscars. Oppenheimer cleans up. What else happened? Gosling, of course. I guess y'all forgot the boy was a Disney kid. All right, of course he's a great performer. Of course he can sing. Of course, Ryan Gosling has the aura to pull off a, I'm just kid performance at the Oscars. Of course. I don't know why it was ever in doubt. I don't know why it was ever in doubt. What else? Oh, Cena was naked, which is about, part of the, I saw a bunch of, again, conspiracy theorists driving my head up a wall with the whole, he's trying to do something, he was getting naked because it's a humiliation thing for the Illuminati, or whatever craziness y'all were talking about. Like, so he's been doing this for 20 years, physical comedy, or that he's been doing it for 20 years. So he's been in the Illuminati for, I don't even want to discuss it. It was funny. It was funny. And yeah, Oscars wasn't as, dry as usual. So I guess credit where credit's due. But yeah, Oppenheimer cleans up as well deserved. Music this week. Before, of course, I talk about the greatest industry plant in the world, I'm going to talk about David, D4VD. David. Had My House Is Not a Home, which was very, very good. Very good single. Go check it out. It might get you in your feels, but you also might just be rocking with it. All right? It was very, very good. Shout out to the boy. That was fire. Now, Forbats has been the best new artist of the year, even though he's barely dropped a full song, if he has. All right? Most of them been like 150, so you know. But anyways, the most popular to date, of course, on TikTok or via TikTok has been Date at 8. Act 2, of course, is what he's, Act 2, Date at 8. But that, of course, got the Drake cosign. And then he got the Drake stimulus package. Date at 8 got the remix feat Drake. They do Drizzy at the end and just let Drizzy kind of do his thing. It was great. All right, it was great. And I'm not just saying as a Drake fan, it was great. All right, it was great. Forbats got the Drake stimulus package and then got signed to OVO, apparently. So welcome to the 6. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, Forbats. I need a full song though. I need like a full product. I mean, I get the rollout. I get how we're doing this, but I need something more with substance. This with Drake was a good start. We'll see how OVO does with him if that's where he signed. But yeah, Forbats continues his hot streak and really on top of the world a little bit right now. I think he had the highest streaming day. Besides, I guess Ariana also dropped this week. So for the gals, if you're watching this, any gals are watching this, heard it was very good. I was told that it was very, very good. I haven't listened to it, but yeah, I heard it was very, very good. So yeah, shout out to Ari. CBB, baby, college basketball. Let's get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way, all right? Because y'all came to gloat. Y'all came to gloat, and I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction because I'm a real hater. I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction. I'm going to let you start off the segment, not make you wait. I even let you have the main event, and I'm only going to breeze through this, all right? Carolina beat Duke, no surprise. 84-79 at Cameron. Of course, there were some things I have to technically frown upon, like the fans throwing drinks at the Carolina players after the game, and Kyle Filipowski continuing, I guess, what is becoming a Duke tradition of our white boy that everybody hates tripping some player. So, yeah, Flip, I can't condone it. Cameron Crazy's doing stuff. I can't condone it. I ain't mad at it, out of pure hatred for Carolina. But, I can't condone it, of course. It's like what Kevin, Gates said. I understand what you did, but I just can't condone it, big brother. I can't. Cormac Ryan had the game of his life in a game that Carolina fans will remember in their wet dreams forever. He had 31, and that's pretty much the reason why they won. I'm going to be completely blunt. Armando Bacot was nowhere to be seen. ACC Player of the Year, very, very likely. RJ Davis was also nowhere to be seen. But Cormac Ryan went off. All right, went ballistic. All right, it was a great week for the white boys, and I mean that with no racist intent. It was a great weekend for the white boys, as you will see in men's college basketball. Right? It was their weekend. They showed out, especially in Tennessee, Kentucky, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, Cormac, great game from him. Harrison Ingram, I talk about it countless times when I've talked about Carolina. He is their big game player. He is that guy. He does the dirty work. He does everything you need to, especially in those big moments. He always shows up. He is that model of consistency that I think is making Carolina and could potentially make them, because, with the chaos going on this year, at this point, I have to say Carolina is a championship contender. I'd be wrong if I said they weren't. It's the truth. But yeah, Harrison Ingram, 14 and 10. He's that guy. He's the glue guy. He's the guy. All right? A lot of respect for him. Flip, of course, game is marred by the fact that he tripped somebody, but he had 23. He wasn't awful, but wasn't necessarily the superstar we were promised. Jeremy Roach, thank you for your contributions. Please go overseas. Thank you. Thank you for the 4 years, but we do not need you for a 5th when we have the God Squad next year, okay? It's a new era. We need to wipe our slate clean. Tyrese Proctor, I would also prefer if you just, went to the G League or overseas. You're probably going to get drafted in the first round, maybe, depending on how you close. So, goodbye, sayonara. We don't need you anymore. Jared McCain, I'm going to miss you, however. 19 points for the freshman. He better be on all of the all-freshman teams or, like a second or third team if we're talking all first team for the ACC, but, second, third, I will accept for, the national calendar. But, yeah, shout out to Jared. Showed up. He was one of the only players with a post for us. But, yeah, Carolina gets the sweep. No surprise there. I don't want to play them in the ACC. I'm going to be honest. I'd rather lose out than have to play Carolina again because I do not want them to get even further satisfaction of how lopsided this series has been the past couple years. But, yeah, Carolina gets the win. Yeah, no surprise. Houston packs up Kansas. I was talking about this with somebody throughout the entire weekend, actually. Kansas is hilariously bad on the road. It's honestly comedic. It's tragic if you're a KU fan, but it's honestly comedic how bad they are on the road. And it's every week. Every week. And of course, like we've said before, the Big 12 is a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath in the tournament. But it's just comedic how they've just fall apart on the road. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in this game for them. Hunter got hurt. McCullough got hurt. They shot 33% from the field, 3 for 21, which is 14% from 3. You're not winning a game when that happens. And of course, credit where credit's due. Houston had a great team performance. Jamal Sheed, who ended up winning Big 12 Player of the Year, had 13, 6, and 8, so a great all-around game from Sheed. But this was a great performance overall from Houston. It was a dominant defensive performance, and they just completely shut down Kansas, who just cannot win on the road for whatever reason. Of course, game of the week was Kentucky versus Tennessee. It's the game with it had the most interest. I'm going to be honest. Even more than Carolina Duke or maybe Carolina Duke because Carolina Duke had more hype, but I was kind of logged out of that. I was more interested even as a Duke fan, which I guess maybe I'm lapsed at this point. But anyways, Kentucky and Tennessee, which is the battle of the great white boys, which is what it was. And like I said, I mean no racial, I'm not trying to, be racist or anything, but, the two coldest white boys in college basketball. All right. Kentucky Jesus, Reed Shepherd. All right. Shout out to his parents, Kentucky legends. And of course, SEC Player of the Year, National Player of the Year, if it wasn't for Zach Edey, Dalton Connect. All right. And they went off. All right. Kentucky, however, gets the big win, 85-81. this is a huge win for Kentucky. A massive win. Not just because it's a rival, not just because Dalton dropped 40 and you still won, not just because Reed dropped 27, 6, and 5, including 7 threes, which of course was huge for him. And of course, he's now a top 5 projected pick. Just completely has flipped my. I didn't think Reed was going. I thought Reed might take some time to get to this level. I didn't think out of this class he'd be like a one and done off of what I saw. But his game, and I don't know if it's just because he just plays, very. You can tell he's very fundamentally sound. I don't mean that in a cliche way, but he just everything he does is just very easily translatable. It's just very easily translated. He makes the right decisions. He plays with a high IQ. He has the skill to also back it up, right? He's more than just, a good fundamental guy. He also has the skill and just everything translated much better than I expected, but also very, very well looking in retrospect. So, yeah, shout out to Reed. He had a monster game. Antonio Reeves also had 27, by the way. But, huge win for Kentucky. They've been up and down the entire year, but a win like this in March can completely alter the trajectory of this Kentucky team and hopefully, or, I won't say hopefully, of course, or maybe hopefully if you're a Kentucky fan, but can, maybe send them on that right path as we go into the tournament. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Like I said, DK had 40. He took 20-something shots, but still dropped 40, looked every bit, the superstar he's emerged as in college basketball, but it was not enough. Zakai Ziegler, he did show up for a big game, 17-9, but like I said, it wasn't enough. Reed Shepherd would not be denied, and Kentucky wouldn't either. They get the win, 85-81. Now let's talk about some conference championships, ladies and gentlemen. Caitlin Clark. She's been the highlighted segment for this show damn near every week. But yeah, Caitlin played the worst half I have ever seen, probably in her life. I'm not going to lie to you. Probably the worst half of basketball Caitlin Clark has ever played in her life. She had 4 points, shot 3 for 12. It was horrendous, okay? Even though her playmaking was still up to par, she still had like 8 assists, at halftime because, she's still Caitlin Clark. Let's not get twisted. But played the worst half she's ever played. Ever. It looked like Nebraska, for all intents and purposes, had Iowa's number, had her number. Of course, Nebraska, if you remember, was the team that's the lone team that stopped Caitlin Clark this year, held her to 0 points in the fourth quarter, and of course they had that huge comeback at home to get a big upset over Iowa. That could have sent Iowa into a tailspin, but they recovered shortly after. And it looked like that's where we were headed, but instead of, in the fourth quarter for the entire game, they picked up where they left off. But my. Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark for a reason. We hold her in such a high regard as not just the woman in college basketball, but as the definitive star, the definitive player, the definitive talent in college basketball for a reason. It is not just because of the hype. It's not just because of the range she has on her threes. It is because she is simply put her. And she was absolutely her to deliver a 3rd Big Ten championship in a row for the Iowa Hawkeyes and their supporters. I mean, my goodness. It was masterful. 30 points in the second and at halftime, which she, by the way, sit at halftime, driving to the basket. But yeah, Caitlin went off. All right, she went to a different level in that second half. 34, 7, 12. Oh, and 3 steals, by the way, for the people that say Caitlin cannot defend. She defended very, very well in this game, especially to close. What more can I say? All right, what more can I say? What more can I say about this woman that we have not said, that I have not said, that, people online, that you have not said? What more? What more? One of the greatest to ever pick it up. Simply. And it wasn't just her. Once again, we said the X factor for Iowa was Hannah Stolke. She's got to show up. She showed up once again. 25-9. But I also want to give some credit to Sydney Offletter. She had a double-double in this game. Didn't shoot well, but had a double-double. And, of course, another player that I think is making a massive difference for this Iowa team, and it is really going to, be a determinant besides even Caitlin and Hannah and how far Iowa goes, is Kate Martin. She is such an important piece to this Iowa team. Such an important piece. She's that other she gives that, besides Caitlin having the ball, when I know Kate Martin, has possession, I feel a sense of calm, right? I feel a sense of reliability. She's reliable. You can trust. I have a sense of trust in Kate that she's going to make the right play, that she's going to knock down the shot, whatever it is, all right? So, yeah, shout out to Kate Martin, one of the, the underappreciated. I'm very appreciated by the Iowa faithful, of course. But one of the underappreciated players, I'd say, in all of college basketball, Gabby Marshall as well. It was a great team effort by the veterans of that Iowa team to help push them over the brink in overtime and really settle in, learn from the mistakes that they made in that first game versus Nebraska, and get it done this time. So, yeah, credit where credit's due. Iowa gets the three-peat. Kate, of course, shuts it down. Natalie Potts, by the way, is only a freshman for Nebraska. She's going to be an issue. She had 21-9. Markowski also had a great game, 23-13. Jazz Shelley was once again an issue. The Aussie had 16-6-13, but it was not enough. Nebraska runs out of, gas, and Iowa shows why. All right, not just Caitlin, but definitely Caitlin. She was a big reason why, but why Iowa's not just, a one-man show. They can get it done as a team, and, Caitlin Clark is the best player in the game. Notre Dame. All right, now, of course, this ACC tournament is marred a little bit by, Liz Kidley being out with, we have no idea when she's coming back. I'm kind of scared it's Olivia, funny enough, an Olivia Miles situation from last year, where it was like, yeah, she's day-to-day, and then it was like, yeah, she tore her ACL, she ain't coming back. I'm very terrified because I would hate to see Liz's stock, her draft stock, take a tumble after the great year she had, winning ACC Player of the Year for her 3rd straight year. I would hate to see her career crash out like that, but I'm a little bit worried. I'm not going to lie, but yeah. No Liz for VTech, so they couldn't get it done, but we got Notre Dame and State, 2 very good teams in the ACC tournament final here in the 336 in Greensboro at the Coliseum. And Notre Dame outlast State 55-51 to Hannah Hidalgo. Let me say it one more time. Hannah Hidalgo. You know what? She deserves a 3rd time. Hannah Hidalgo. Co-freshman of the year. I get it, Juju. And actually, Juju didn't have played a great game, by the way. This Pac-12 championship, even though we'll talk about it. But Hannah should be co-freshman of the year. Gotta be. I mean, incredible what she's done. We knew she was good. She was a 5-star prospect. All right, if you watch all high school basketball, you know, you knew who Hannah Hidalgo was. But the how good she's been this year, how she's just seamlessly become a superstar, it's been a wonder. All right, it's been a wonder to watch, and she was a wonder in this game. She closed the show. I simply put, she closed the show when they needed a clutch basket. Coach Ivy was able to call on Hidalgo, and the freshman was able to get it done. Simple. 22, 6 and 6 for Hannah. I think only like 2 steals, which is a down game for her defensively. But she still played great defense overall. And yeah, Hannah gets it done. Notre Dame gets it done. They get that, you know, sweet ACC tournament championship and are champions of the ACC. NC State had opportunities but couldn't take advantage. I think they'll be okay. And yeah, it's going to be a fun March with those 2 teams. But yeah, shout out to Hannah. She's her. You know, it's kind of funny how we had Duke and Carolina, and we had Kentucky, Tennessee, right? 2 ranked matchups in men's basketball this week, and it still wasn't the best rivalry game. Still wasn't even really probably the most watched or hyped rivalry game of the week. No. That belonged to the SEC Tournament Championship, which once again brought us another edition of what is becoming a very, very... And you know what? We actually passed through meltdown. Like the build up to this was, you know, tensions were definitely rising, right? We reached meltdown in the SEC Tournament Championship between South Carolina and LSU. Oh boy, did we reach meltdown, to quote Travis Scott and Drake. Boy. The rivalry game of the week. These 2 teams, you know, I don't know if y'all know, they don't like each other. This is not like, you know, historical hate or we hate each other just because of, you know, the backstory of our rivalry. No, these 2 teams don't like each other. This is some good old-fashioned, shout out to Florida, Georgia. This is some good old-fashioned hate, all right? Pure hate. These 2 teams don't like each other. The players don't like each other. I mean, Dawn has enough class, so she probably would never say she doesn't like Kim necessarily. And I think Kim likes Dawn. But the fan bases don't like each other. All right? These 2 teams, LSU and South Carolina, do not like each other at all. Hate. H-A-T-E in capital letters. All right? And it boiled over in this from the start. I mean, Angel and Camila were going at it from the jump. From the first possession of this game. I mean, you just knew something was going to happen. You just knew. And Angel was playing a little, you know, pulling the hair. You know, we had some, there. It was very physical. It was very, very physical. To put it very slightly. All right, very lightly. Very physical game between these 2 women's teams. Taunting, going back and forth, trash talk. I mean, people talking crazy, just going back and forth. All right, it was good old-fashioned hate. Hate. All right, this was Player Haters Game of the Year. And it boiled over with, which unfortunately I can't not talk about as we got to the 4th quarter. South Carolina looking like they might pull away. LSU was about to set up for a timeout. Flau'jae had the ball. Malaysia Fulwiley, who ends up winning SEC Tournament MVP. In case you didn't know, South Carolina won already somehow, if you didn't know that. Fulwiley gets the steal. South Carolina ends up, I think, getting the timeout or whatever. Oh, no. Flau'jae basically intentionally fouls Fulwiley. Ashlyn Watkins, you know, gets fired up, you know, says some stuff to Flau'jae. Flau'jae doesn't let that slide. She, you know, shoves her off and keeps walking. But before she can get away, Camila Cardoso comes from across the court. And at 6'7", decides she wants to be a goon and not Aaliyah Boston. And she runs dead over Flau'jae Johnson and all hell breaks loose. Flau'jae's brother jumps from the court, gets arrested. We got people, we somehow didn't throw punches, all right? We almost descended to that. People somehow got it in hand, but there were a lot of foul language and a lot of shoving going on and a lot of hate. And it resulted, you know, even though I thought the very simple, you know, just simply Camila has to get thrown out, which I think was like a no-brainer, obviously. And then, you know, Ashlyn and Flau'jae get texts. I feel like that was the easy fix. Like, you didn't have to throw everybody out. I feel like it was pretty simple, Camila. We had 20 minutes on this. Like, Cardosa, she's got to go because, she fought. She's the only one that actually do anything. Flawley's got to get a T for, the shove and for, helping instigate this. Ashlyn has to get it for instigating this, even though this was building throughout the game. Thought that was the simple fix. But no, the refs threw out the entire bench. In fact, Tahina, who was at the scores table and ended up not checking back in the game regardless, she got thrown out too before they, were like, all right, she can stay. But they had to finish the game with 6 players. And honestly, that would have been trouble for South Carolina. But fortunately, they had enough of a lead and, LSU ran out of time and they didn't play good basketball. I think their heads were just kind of, especially Flawley, I think her head was just kind of out of the game at that point after what happened and what was happening with her brother. So, yeah, South Carolina proves that they are the better team. They get the win 79-72 and are undisputed champions of the SEC. Let's act surprised. Malaysia Fulwiley has had her moment. She hasn't been necessarily on that juju, even though South Carolina fans, and I think a lot of the media, especially early on after she did the layup, I think a lot of people wanted Malay. I mean, and she may be one day, right? She'll be very good. She's going to be one of the top players in college basketball. Don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of people try to anoint her a little bit far too early into her career. Because let's be honest, she's not playing at the level, and that's not what South Carolina or Dawn needs her to do, to play at the level of a Hannah or Juju. But a lot of people try to put her in that, and she wasn't ready for those lights. She would have her moments, but she had a lot of games where she had to learn. She had to learn from Tahina and from, Bria and learn from the people that were, ahead of her, right? Had to learn from them. And it all kind of came together in this championship. Had 24. She played a really good game. Really, the entire tournament, she was that spark plug scoring wise. Very similar to almost for the guys watching this who just watched the men's game for whatever reason. Similar to how Rob has played for Kentucky is what Phil Wiley's been for South Carolina, and it came together in this tournament. She played great, well deserving of tournament MVP. She was that girl. All right, she was that girl. She was the Phil Wiley that I think she will become, and maybe become a Gamecock legend. But yeah, it was a good start. Good start for that. Yeah. Camila Cardosa got she's just not, she's good, but she's disappointing. She's just disappointing. Even before the shove, which once again, you got yourself suspended which is fine because you're South Carolina and they've won without you before, but you got to play smarter than that, knowing you got you're playing for championships. You can't get over emotional. I get standing up for your teammate, but you cannot do things that are going to take you away from making this team a championship contender, right? South Carolina, for all intents and purposes, let's be blunt here, should win the national championship. There should be no failure like happened last year when they ran into the Boogie Woman. That shouldn't happen this year, even if they run into the Boogie Woman by some foreign act of God. Shouldn't happen. They should win the national championship. You smoke LSU twice, and you smoke the rest of the country the way that they have this year, there's no excuse. No excuse. With the best college coach in the game, and Don Staley, and the best pure team, they don't have necessarily the stars, but the deepness of this team, the depth, and how well they play together, this is the best team in the country. They should win the national championship. So Camila's got to play smarter than that and not, do things that could take away from that and prevent them from doing that. And she did that. And she's got to play better. She's got to be more of a dominant force. Yeah, you were SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, you're a very good player. Yes, you're a first rounder, but you could be dominant. You have every physical gift known to womankind. And she's not as dominant as she should be. She just hasn't been that girl, which is why other players, fortunately, have had to step up in her place at times. And it happened again in this game. I would like to see her play better down the stretch if South Carolina wants to ensure that they win the national championship this year. Anissa Moreau, she still, did Anissa Moreau thing. She had 19 and 10. She only went 5 for 18, though, which is not, great efficiency-wise. And that was a little bit of an issue, which, like I said, great defense from South Carolina. Really, really good defense in this game. That kind of, gave them the edge in the end. HVL had 14, wasn't super efficient, but definitely down the stretch, she played a lot better and looked like the HVL we all kind of know and, we're like, yo, she's one of the stars of the game. Angel had 16 and 13, wasn't super efficient, but she won the matchup versus Cardosa again. But unfortunately, now has took in another loss to South Carolina. So yeah, it's going to be a hard road to defending the title for LSU. It's not impossible, but I think it's going to be very difficult. South Carolina needs to stop making things harder than they need to be, but they do get that 8th title under the Dawn Staley regime, and I think it is well deserved. USC and Stanford. Very intrigued by this game. Finally getting to really see those two teams and really see them in full. Cam Brink was the best player on the court. She is every bit, if you've heard anything, it's actually that and more. She's even better. She is who we think Cam Brink is. She was the best player on the court. Simply put, she is one of them ones. All right? It's not just a hype job. It's not just, she has 300K because she's a beautiful woman. No, Cam Brink is a superstar. A superstar. The best defensive player in the country. All right? Respectfully. She's like Wemby in woman form. That's the best way I can put it. She had 19, 10, and 6 blocks. Dominant, but it wasn't enough because the issue, this game exposed 2 things. USC is for real and are more than just Juju, which bodes very well from them. Very, very well. Because even though Juju has that Caitlin Green light, right, and can go for 30, 40, 50, sometimes at will, even though she was unable and kind of got shut down, to be honest, in this game, they're more than just her, which means that they are a championship contender, potentially. Or not potentially, they are. We also learned that Stanford has a very glaring weakness, and they don't have that guard play. They do not have the guard play. They have great bigs. Kiki Irafin, and of course, Cam Brink is one of the best players in the country. But they don't have the guard play to back it up. They don't even have like a Haley, right? At almost like a guard forward position to help clean that up. They don't have that, and that is why they lost this game. Mackenzie Forbes went ballistic, all right? She stepped up big time. Big time. The Ivy League transfer. Had 26, a very emotional moment after the game, talking about her sacrifices. Had a really good quote about bringing USC back with Juju and everybody else, and how they stood on the backs, the shoulders of giants. I thought that was a really good quote from her. Heard it before, but I think she used it really very, very, very well in that interview. But yeah, Forbes, she was big time. 26. Juju shot 2 for 15. 2 for 15. And they still won. Marshall had 10 and 18. USC proved that we can play an elite team and still win because we are more than one player, and I think that bodes very, very well from them. Not just being back, quote-unquote, in national prominence, but what they could do in the tournament. So yeah, credit where credit's due, because Juju's going to have better games than 2 and 15. Brink, like I said, was dominant. Kiki did her thing too, but Stanford needs to clean up the guard play or they are going to get upset in the tournament because Cam cannot do everything. And just cannot. I mean, she can take over games, but she can only do but so much. Same thing with Kiki. So yeah, Stanford needs to clean that up. But USC, very, very impressive. I'm very excited. If you haven't heard me say it already, I cannot wait for the women's tournament. I'm honestly more excited for that than the men's tournament. All right. But yeah, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the roundup. Max won again, no surprise. All right, Max wins. He dominates Jeddah. Y'all know how this goes. All right, he was on pole. He dominated the free practices. He dominated the race. However, Charles Leclerc, gets the fastest lap. So Charles, changed it up a little bit. All right, he added a little spice. He also got his first podium of the year. The big story, however, was not the Red Bull 1-2 or even Charles getting the podium in fastest lap. It was Carlos Sainz having appendicitis on Friday, so he has to leave, have surgery. So Oliver Bierman, fresh off of getting the pole for F2 this weekend, gets called up on 1 day's notice to qualify, which he nearly gets in the Q3, nearly beats Lewis for that, and then goes from 11th to 7th to score 6 points in his debut race, looking every bit the great, future top driver that a lot of people have pinned Oliver Bierman to be. So yeah, shout out to Ollie, man. Shout out to Ollie. What a drive. He was the story. Made the race interesting because it wasn't a great race. But watching Ollie, that was a lot of fun. 3rd youngest driver, by the way, in F1 history, I believe. At 18, right behind Max, who I think is the youngest, and Lance Stroll. Funny that's 2 people on the grid right now that are, or actually we had the 3 youngest drivers to ever, debut, all, racing at the same time. Unfortunately, Lance crashed out. Max won, but Ollie did have a good day, like I said. Got 7th in his debut. Looks like he's got that hot seat next year if he wants it and keeps it up. So yeah, we'll see if Carlos is back. I'm not sure if he'll be back next week, if it'll be Ollie again. Sucks that it kind of messes up his F2 championship kind of hopes, but nonetheless, still really cool moment for Ollie. And of course, him performing like this is much better than him, winning the F2 race. So yeah, shout out to Ollie, great performance. Chris Bell wins at Phoenix. Not necessarily max dominant, but Bell had one of the, if not the best car all weekend long and performed so. Great weekend for JGR, by the way. Great weekend for JGR. But yeah, Bell wins at Phoenix. Deloading had a great week. If we ignore that Sacramento game, a great week for the Lakers too. But yeah, he had a great week. He had that 44 on the Bucks. And of course, Brown was like, why are you giving me the ball on Monday against OKC? So yeah, really good week for deloading. And a better week for the Lakers. Improvements there. Jalen Green got Drea pregnant, as we all knew. But it became official this week. And in turn, he decided to baptize Anthony Simons. When he is on, that team is so much fun. When JG is on at Houston, it is such a fun team. Unfortunately, this week ended with Sengun getting hurt yesterday. So hoping for the best there, but I don't, I think he might be out for some time. Hopefully not too long. But yeah, Houston has the highs, also has the lows. And Mac Jones is a Jaguar. Yep, that 2021 class just crashed and burned after we thought, man, that could be special. It just went to, woo. Zach Wilson, bust. Justin Fields is getting traded. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been who we thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be, even though I still think Trevor's, one of the better quarterbacks, but we were like, he's a borderline generational guy. He hasn't necessarily been that. Of course, that got hampered by Urban Meyer, excuse me. But even still, even with Dougie, and it's not always, Trev's fault, but, he hasn't really lived up to the hype necessarily, even though he hasn't really been bad, so to say. Who else? Trey Lance. Did he get cut or did we trade for him? I forget, but he's not on the 49ers anymore. Bust. All of them just busted. It just went bad. Everything could go wrong, went wrong in that class. So yeah, Mac Jones is now QB1's backup in Jacksonville. And Russell Wilson gets cut from the Broncos this week, and he signed with the Steelers. So I don't know how it's going to go, but we will see. We will see. I don't know if Russ still has it anymore, and I don't know if him going to the Steelers really changes anything. But they just kind of wanted to put a Band-Aid on what might be a bigger, scar or injury, and that is fine for them to do. So we will see. We will see what Russ can do in Pittsburgh, but yeah, I'm not expecting too much. What else? T. Higgins X for a trade, so we'll see if anything happens this week in that. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it was a huge week in sports and entertainment. I hope you guys enjoyed. But without further ado, Ocho signing off.